Alright, good evening everybody. Today we're gonna start the vascular plant. So if you notice, or if you ever watched or viewed or saw a grade 11 biology, you will realize that this is the 5th unit. So why am I putting this now? So this is how I like to approach it. We're going to do plants first, and then we're going to do evolution, genetics, and we're gonna learn, and finally we're gonna stop at internal systems. So there are a couple of reasons why I like to do this. First, we're all going to pre-med. If you're taking in biology, you are likely going to, well, you want to learn about how humans work, or you're going to learn about, hey, I want to be a pre-med. How do I go into med school? I need that biology credit. So, plants usually becomes a weak point, and plant has always been my weak point, and I hated it when I did it. So, I'm going to assume that this is going to be your absolute worst unit. And yeah, without much, let's start. So today we're going to be talking about vascular plants. Vascular plants are plants with specialized tissues, basically. They have xylem and phloem. They can transport water up and down. We just learned that a couple lessons ago. Vascular plants, they're separated into two obvious parts. Everything that's above the ground is the shoot system, and everything that's below the ground is a root system. So usually we just look at them and be like, hey, that's one plant. No. Alright, there's two types of systems in plants. They're much more simple than humans. However, they still exist. So these are mainly used for photosynthesis. So you can see these are very green, and these are more towards lenient towards the soil color. They're more brown. They have less chlorophyll, and they perform less photosynthesis or none. So this part is also usually used for reproduction when you have seeds, or you have cones, or you have pollen or whatever. So roots, primarily we have root hair that extends out of this to increase surface area to absorb water and nutrients, and it's just there. It makes sure that the plant doesn't move or a wind doesn't come over and break the plant. It also stores much and a lot of the nutrients that the plants absorb in. Roots. So root is generally made up of these couple things. So root cap is going to protect the tip of the root because the root wants to continue to grow. The plants, as it grow above the ground, it's also growing below the ground, and essentially the one below the ground is even bigger than the one above the ground. Meristemic region, it has all of these rapid cell division and differentiation. So it's like stem cells. So it's like stem cells in humans. So it's called meristemic cells. And this is where they exist. This meristemic region, this is where they exist. These cells, they can pretty much become anything inside of a plant. And they are dividing really quickly here. Epidermal layer is the most outer layer. Often it has root hairs since a plant wants to absorb water. Cortex, it stores nutrients and transports materials. Endodermal layer regulates water and nutrition entry into the vascular tissue. So it makes sure that stuff goes in and it doesn't go out. So it just stays in there, and then the plant can transport that up there. Vascular layer is the most inner layer most of the time. It contains the xylem and the phloem for transporting water and food, essentially. But food, it's more nutrients and all of that minerals that we need for photosynthesis or for production of food or whatever. Now we're gonna go through all of them. Root tips. So right here, right outside, we can see the root cap. It's that color. It's pretty hard. It's a hard layer for protection because it needs to protect. And here, meristem. It's an area where cells rapidly divide and then become all of these random stuff. Maybe they could become a ground tissue or a vascular tissue used for transportation, whatever. They divide really quick and then become these things. So wherever they need it, they become them. So it's like bone marrow in humans. We create stem cells somehow. Outer root layers. So we have epidermis. So epidermis, it's like the most outer layers. And root hairs, the only thing we need to know is that root hairs develop, so we can have an increased amount of surface area, so more water and minerals can go through these and go in. Cortex is the storage and transportation, so it's like around the yellow here. Pretty simple. Inner root layers, so I talked about this earlier. It's the vascular bundles, basically. You have vascular tissues. So here we have the xylem, which you can see is these ones, these big major ones. Alright, so most of these are big and major. And this is a dicot, if you remember well in your first unit. Dicot, monocot. Dicot, monocot. Monocot in a circle. Dicot in an X. Big ones are usually xylem because we need to transport a ton of water. And then foam, they transport sugar, so they are much more smaller. However, there's much more foam than xylem, of course. Types of roots. So this is also a monocot dicot thing. This is a dicot, so you can see it has a lot of leaves. So it has a very big taproot. It has a big root that digs really deep down. And it has smaller branches. Like this. It's just going away from it. Fibrous root, on the other hand, is a monocot. It's very close to the surface and it just has a bunch of it. Both of these are hard to rip out. This one is just too much surface area. This is too deep. There are also two types of stems. One being herbaceous, which is softer, flexible, and it's usually green. So when it's green, we know it's capable of photosynthesis. And then we have the woody stems. So now we know that whenever we go outside and we see a tree, oh, it's a woody stem right there. So it's most definitely more hard. It's more rigid. It makes sure that you don't die, you don't fall over, because trees are really heavy, and if they fall over, we're gonna die. And it's incapable of photosynthesis since it lacks chlorophyll, obviously. And oh yeah, some of them are covered in bark. Just gotta know that. Alright. Stem cross section. So we are going to look into this, but here you gotta know, this is a dicot stem. They're in a circle. These are the vascular bundles, ground tissue, xylem, phloem, and this is the entire vascular bundle. Sclerenchyma, and then on the right side, we have all of these spread around. That's a monocot stem. That's pretty simple, guys. I'm pretty sure we all can remember that, right? Yay! Now, there's types of stems, and we get to look at them on the very next slide. So, tubers, they are enlarged underground stem. They're usually big because they need a lot of storage. So, we like eating this because storage means there's more carbohydrates or nutrients or whatever stuff that we can eat, or starch just in general. Now, bulbs, they are short underground stems that usually has very fleshy leaves. We can see an example here. So, tuberous potatoes. This is full of starch. All right, we eat them because they're delicious. Fleshy leaf, and we have a bulb that stores everything. An onion. Very simple. Corms, almost an entire stem with some little amount of scaly leaves on top. Right here. I can't exactly name you what that is. I think that's a crocus. I don't know, but you get my point. Stolons are horizontal stems that grow along the soil surface. An example of this could be strawberries, or if that's green onion, I believe, but not too sure. Rhizomes are horizontal stems that grow below the ground. So you see, this is above the ground. Stolons above the ground surface. This doesn't get covered in soil. Rhizome below the ground. Okay, so that's ginger right there, if you don't know. Well, yeah, you might be like, hey, you missed these. Runner, what is that? Obviously, it's simple. I can identify which one that is. Yeah, they didn't put that. I guess you don't know that. You don't need to know that for the test. But they are slender stems that grow horizontally along the ground. So you see horizontal, 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 and they eventually branch at specialized point. They're called nodes, if you didn't know. So simple. You don't need to know this. I'm assuming you might need to give an example for them, but hey, you could always take this. Leaves. So leaves are simple structures, and they're probably your main source of photosynthesis, which turns sunlight energy into food for plants, essentially. They have a large surface area for this reason. They need to photosynthesis. The more surface area you have, the more sunlight, the more energy, radiant energy that you're going to get, and then that can be converted into food, which is then used for, like, let's say, probably kinetic energy, use movement inside of the cell or whatever. They could be simple or compound. So we're gonna talk about the blade first. Yeah, simple or compound. You can see on the right, they have simple, simple, simple. Well, most of these are simple. Simple, 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 compound, compound. So 1, 2, 3, and this is on two sides. Two sides. This compound, it's like it follows a symmetric shape. Petiole, on the other hand, it attaches leaf. Can I see? Yeah. So this part, we usually just call this the leaf, but no, this part, petiole, it holds the leaf towards the stem. It's pretty important. Come on, guys. Internal structures, cuticle. It is the most outside waxy layer. It just prevents water loss. So everything that gets in here, they use the water. They can't let sunlight evaporate everything, or they will be out of water. So we have a waxy layer that prevents this. Vascular tissues basically are xylem, phloem, which are used to transportation. Mesophyll has spongy and palisade. So this up here, those are the ones that's actually doing work and doing photosynthesis. That's palisade, and these are spongy. They're just there for airspace. Guard cells are over here. They can open up, which lets carbon dioxide in here for photosynthesis and also releases water when needed. It usually open in the daylight, by the way. Okay, so dicot leaf structure. We saw an example here. This is actually a dicot. We have those straight lines, and we have those airspace in there. That's a dicot. Here's another example that shows you better. Here's a monocot, and here, this is a stomata. So when the guard cells open up, they leave a hole, and that hole is called the stomata. Very simple. Now you see, these are in ring shaped, and they usually follow around this shape, like the chlorophyll and the vascular bundles. They follow this shape. They will go round, round, round outside, and here round, round, round outside. While this is up, or if you flip it upside down, the bottom is up. The bottom is like straight, or there is at least one way that's straight. So this part, the leaf's upper surface, is likely going to be straight because it's always looking at the sunlight. So here is actually performing photosynthesis, and the bottom is just airspace. You need air somewhere. Now, comparing monocots and dicots, this graph it was shown in Unit 1, and I don't remember it, but you need to know. So, number of seed leaves, 1, 2, that's obvious. Roots, there's a vascular tissue orientation. Roots, it's a ring-like. Roots is a star shape or an X. This one is scattered in stems. We'll go back. That's the stems scattered around in a circle. Right? What else? What else do we have? Right here. X shape, or you can call it a star, but really, is it a star? It's probably more of an X, and this is a circle right here. And then vegetation, palmate or pinnate. Okay, and then fibrous root, taproot. If there is secondary growth. Okay, so this is it. So dicots. Remember when we talked about these roots? Woody is usually dicots. They tend to not die out and come back every year.